welcome to Telly Talk, where we talk about what's on the telly. And by that I mean we talk about what's on our minds, because we're Telly. I'm Sleepy Soul. This week, we're talking about the recently put out movie. I can't think. What's this movie called? A movie that recently came out. Across the Spiderverse. The second movie of the Spiderverse series. So, starting off, my favorite part of the entire movie, like ever, like I don't care about the plot, whatever. My favorite thing about the entire movie was whenever Gwen and her dad would talk with each other, like have a serious talk, or like she would confront her dad. There was the background behind them would just like melt into like colors, and it would just be like all drippy and melty, and like behind Gwen it would be like her colors of like pink, blue, and white and a little black, and then occasionally her like spider symbol would come up as well, and then behind her dad it would be like more neutrally colors. um he didn't really have a symbol, so there wasn't really a symbol, but it would like be all melty, and it would just kind of like enclose them closer together and like block out everything else in the background, and it was very nice, and I love that so much.
Like the first movie, like everyone loved the animation of the first movie. That was like groundbreaking animation stuff, and it was good. I admit it was like that was an amazing piece of animation, but it was so intense that it kind of gave me a headache, the same way video games gave me a headache. But this movie, like the animation, there was more animation, but it was still less intense than the first one. So it was like I found it to be even more beautiful, but still like it didn't give me a headache like the first one did, which was awesome. I loved how every single universe had different art styles. That was so fun to watch. They did an incredible job with the animation. They completely knocked it out of the park this movie. This was like the best animation I've ever seen before. It was just beautiful. What flag do those colors make? The
The
gay flag,
Luxembourg flag. The gay British
the tr-
flag.
the no, what? There's a gay British flag.
Yeah, it's the candy cane one.
Oh my God, gay British people are candy canes.
They're candy cane people.
Oh my God, look at this.
The
We support gay British people.
I
No, we
don't.
don't. We tolerate gay British people.
I
They're the
don't.
most valid British people. We tolerate them. We don't support them.
They're
But
okay.
you're tolerable.
And
They're
it's
okay.
not
You
because
have. Uh,
you're gay, it's because you're British.
exactly. That's why you're a candy cane.
Yeah.
You're not fruity. You're just a candy cane.
You're minty.
Gay British people are minty instead of fruity.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you know this, but Gwen's colors in the watercolor palette are the colors of the trans flag. And like every time she has a scene with her dad, which is basically like a metaphor for coming out, and I could talk about how her and Miles thing is like a metaphor for coming out. Not only is Gwen's color palette in her background during her like coming out scenes to her dad, the trans flags, but also Police Chief Dad's uniform, the very first time you see it on screen, has a trans flag on it. Why would a cop have a trans flag on his uniform unless him or someone in his family is trans? Now, I'm not saying Gwen is trans. If you don't think Gwen is trans, that's cool. The movie doesn't say she is. But I'm saying the movie makes a very strong metaphor for her being trans and does include the trans flag in multiple places. Not only on the dad's cop uniform, which I feel like is a big sign, but also in her bedroom, there's above her door, there is a trans flag that says protect trans kids, which is an interesting poster to have in your bedroom if you're not trans. And I think her entire story is a metaphor for being a trans kid. And the reason I think that is the entire movie, which, by the way, came out at the beginning of Pride Month, is about Miles and Gwen having parts of their identity that they're scared to tell their parents because they're worried their parents will react badly. And with Gwen specifically, it's her dad, it's the fact that they're Spider Man, but Gwen's dad doesn't like Spider Man. Gwen's dad thinks a lot of bad things that aren't true about Spider Man. Gwen's dad thinks Spider Man killed Peter Parker and thinks all these bad things about Spider Man. But Gwen is Spider Man. None of these bad things are true. So it's like you'd think as a parent you would love your kid enough to know that once you see that your kid is Spider-Man, then you would know that your kid isn't a murderer. But when she tells her dad she's Spider-Man, the dad can't get over the hatred for Spider-Man enough to, like, know that, like, who his kid is. Like, it doesn't overpower it.
Her dad really pulled a gun on her. What kind of dad would just pull a gun on their kid? Her dad really cares about their universe's Peter Parker more than his own daughter, because he would like shoot his daughter because she killed, quote unquote killed in his perspective, their Peter Parker, which is wrong.
Literally. And
But it's so, why would, he's such a horrible person.
that's, like, where the trans, like, he's such a bad person. Until we talk about that later at the end about how he, like, steps down from his job.
Yeah,
But that's, like, where the metaphor comes in, because it's, like, he
predicting the future.
he's if you're like a if you're a trans kid, you have a transphobic parent, and your parent believes all these bad things about trans people, when you come out to them, you would think they would go, I believe these bad things about trans people, but my kid is trans, so those things aren't true, and I love my kid, and I'm going to stop believing these bad things. But
I mean,
instead, they go, I believe these bad things about trans people, and my kid is trans, so my kid must be all these bad things too, and I believe these bad things about my kid. And, like, that's, like, a real thing that happens, and you can see it play out in the movie. You could see it play out in, like, my real life when my mom was, like, said, I've been working with kids since I was, like, 11 years old in my church, and once I came out, she said it wasn't appropriate for me to work in the kids room at my church anymore. Even though I'm really, really good with kids, I'm going to be a teacher. It's like when you started crying about Otto, I started crying in the movie theater during the scene because it was so, like, accurate to, like, coming out as trans. And the entire, even with Miles' whole thing is that he's keeping a secret from his parents, and his parents know that, and they keep sitting him down and being like, you know, we love you no matter what. You can tell us anything. And he literally just goes like, and then stops. And it's like, they think he's gay. I'm so sure of it. It feels, because that's how my parents would talk to me before I came out to them.
I
And
didn't
he
think
literally is
that.
like, it sounds like he's about to say I'm gay. Like, I'm so sure they think he's running around with, like, a secret boyfriend. I'm
Well,
so sure they think he's gay, the
I
way they
think
talk to him.
I think they think that he has like a secret job because they see Gwen as like his maybe girlfriend. Like I think that they think he's like running around doing something. They think that he's doing something like art related or something like that that he just won't tell them.
But yeah, the entire part just read to me as the way parents talk to their kids when they think that they're gay and they're not telling them. Like, I've had that conversation so many times, and it was just so funny when he said I'm and then stopped, because it just really sounds like he's gay. It was so funny to me watching. Like, that was comedy from my perspective
Oh yeah.
of it, him accidentally making it look like he's gay. That was, like, funny to me. The entire Gwen storyline is a metaphor for being trans, and the various trans flags throughout her scenes back that up, in my opinion. And it's such, like, an accurate portrayal of coming out to your parents when, like, you know that they won't like it, and the fact that her dad chose believing Spider-Man was bad over believing his daughter was good is what, like, coming out as trans is like people who know you will believe that being trans is bad over you being good, even though they know who you are. He knows his daughter wouldn't kill someone, but he thought Spider-Man did so much that it overrode that. And that is such a beautiful story that I started crying. And now we can compare the characters to the first and second movie. The first movie. Hello? The first movie. Going, like, back to comparing them.
Which was your favorite from the first movie of the Spider Gang?
Oh my god. Like, not including Miles, Gwen, or Peter.
No, including them. Not
Because, like,
Miles.
they were, Miles, Gwen, and Peter were both in both movies as, like, prominent characters, but the rest weren't in the second one as prominent characters.
Sure, besides them.
Oh my god. What I was gonna say was, I didn't really like, besides Miles, Gwen, and Peter, I didn't like most of the other spider characters in the first movie. Like, they all annoyed me. I thought they were all stupid, and everyone else loved them, and everyone would make, like, fun little, like fake conversations with them and everything. But I thought they were all so annoying, and if you like them, that's great, and you're allowed to like them, and it's cool, and I respect your opinion. But personally, I found them all annoying. In this movie, I liked all of the side characters, so that was like another reason I like this movie more than the first one. Is I found the side Spider-Man characters a lot more like to be the types of characters that I like than the first movie.
Which one was your favorite, though?
I don't want to miss any of them, so I'm looking them all up now to make sure I get them all.
I only remember 3 of them. Were there only 3? The Piggy, the anime girl, and Noir.
Piggy, anime girl, and Noir. My favorite was Noir. Yeah, I think Noir was like he annoyed me the least. He was a little bit funny. He was cool.
I liked Aunt May.
That's not a spider character, but I respect it.
She
I was
part
so
of
confused
the gang.
at first. She was at the beginning of the second movie when they're like, Aunt May moved to Florida. I was like, you don't have an Aunt May. And then it came because I haven't seen the first one in like a couple years, and then it came back to me, and I was like, oh, there was an Aunt May.
Yeah, that universe is Peter's Aunt May.
Yeah, it took me a second. I have not seen it in a while. But yeah, all the characters in this movie were like so much more likable to me. Like I liked, like, even though like I disagreed with like Miguel's like as like his like views, I still like liked his character more than like the first movie. And then all the other spider people that were like in the gang were like very fun for me.
Which was your favorite in the new gang?
Oh man,
We have Gwen.
there's Miguel and Jess.
And then there's Lila, Miguel's like secretary. Lady.
She's the one who was like had like different animation scenes in the different versions, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's also Peter's kid. She was fun.
Oh, yeah. She's my favorite.
Mayday. I like Mayday.
She's my favorite. And then
Okay,
Hobie.
Gwen is my favorite, but like excluding Miles and Gwen, because Miles and Gwen are my favorite. I relate to Miles and Gwen both a lot. And I enjoy like Gwen plays the drums and like stuff like that. Like I like the vibes of Miles and Gwen the best.
Yeah.
But aside from them, I liked Hobie and the Indian guy. I wish Peter B. Parker was in the movie more because he was a very main character in the first one and I liked him a lot, and he wasn't in the second one as much as I wish he was. Like he was in it a little bit, but not like a ton. And I liked him and I liked Mayday a lot. They were funny, but he was more just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I was your mentor, but he like didn't do like a whole lot on his own.
Yeah. Well, the movie was really trying to show the new characters, so they're kind of pulling back.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. I got them pulling back all the other ones, but I was surprised how much they pulled back him. And they did it fine. It worked. It was fine. But like, it surprised me, and I wish he was in it a little bit more because I like him.
Yeah, I like his baby.
So you know when like Hobie is first introduced, and he keeps being like, I don't agree with comedy. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with teamwork. I don't agree with consistency or whatever he was saying. Like, I don't believe in this. And after the movie, I was looking online, and it turned out I thought that was really annoying. And I was like, man, I really wanted to like Hobie. Hobie seems so cool, but like he annoyed me right off the bat. But then I went online, and apparently a lot of people found him annoying at first. And the reason and this person was like, no, don't find them annoying. He was doing like a dry humor thing, like making fun of the fact that people perceive him as punk. Because like people don't actually know what punk is, and like people see punk as like a weird stereotype, so he was like making fun of that in like a dry humor type of way. But I did not pick up on that. I didn't realize he was doing dry humor, because I never pick up on dry humor. That is not my style of humor. I don't pick up on it. I took it so literally, and I was like, this is so annoying. But then it was humor, and now that I picked that up, I'm fine. I love him. He's great. like you know, like when he was like stealing stuff, and you're like, haha, this is punk behavior. But then it was like he was making like a new watch. Like that was cool.
I like that his character, he wasn't really a part of the team,
Yeah, like he was like the first one to dip, and he like
And
immediately right off the bat was like helping Miles
like he
against
wasn't
Miguel.
helping Miguel, but he also wasn't really helping Miles in any way. He was kind of just there. He was just chilling.
Yeah, because you can tell like he doesn't. Because Miguel's whole thing is like he's like a multiverse cop. Miguel's a multiverse cop, and Hobie's a punk, and like as soon as like it was like Miles against Miguel, he immediately was like he told Miles to use like his like palms to like break out of the thing with like his like zapper electricity powers. Like he immediately helps Miles over Miguel, and then he dips to go set up a thing to help Gwen. Like he was like as soon as he got the opportunity to, he dipped and started fucking shit up for Miguel, and I respect him for that.
I like the first reaction between Miguel and Hobie, where Hobie's just chilling in the background, and Miguel's just like, I don't even want to look at you, just like.
No, that was so funny.
And but like, I have a question, like, why, if Hobie isn't technically on the team, why is he like involved?
He is on the team. He goes on. They said that him and Gwen have gone on like a bunch of missions together. Like he goes on missions.
But he doesn't
with
have a
it,
watch.
like he had a watch. He got rid of his watch when he left.
No, before that, like he didn't have a watch throughout. Like,
Yes, he did.
no, he didn't.
Yes, he did. That's how he got there. You travel with the watch, and he used the watch to travel there.
But he didn't.
Then he made his own at like later. He made his own later, but he had a watch when he was working for them. He was like part of their team going on missions.
But why did he join? Wouldn't that go against his like own?
I think that's why he was like I think he like joined to like see what was going on, and as soon as he realized like this is authoritarian, he started looking for like cracks in it, I guess. Like he started looking for like flaws in the system Miguel had set up so that way when the time came he could fight against it, and then the time came and he did fight against it.
I get that.
Yeah, I think the reason I remember Hobie having a watch is because it was animated differently than the rest of him. Like the rest of him was animated in that certain style, and the watch was animated like the way the watches look on everyone else. I'm pretty sure.
Hobie gives the watch he makes to Gwen.
I think he makes his own too.
You don't want to talk for 20 minutes about Hobie's watch?
Does Hobie have a watch? Does Hobie give his watch to Gwen? Does he have another watch? Did he destroy his old watch? Who knows? I only watched it once in a theater.
How many watches does Hobie have? 4. 4 watches.
What? Hobie has 4 watches. He pulls it. You tell him to like empty, like drop your weapons, but instead it's like give me your watch, and then he just pulls another watch out of his pocket, and it's like no, all of them. And then he just keeps pulling watches out of his various pockets in his jacket.
It's like a math problem. If you have 1 watch, and the other person has 1 watch, how many watches does Hobie have?
If
15.
If Hobie has 5 watches, but then gives you 1 watch by giving it to your dad, how many watches does Hobie have now?
27.
4. Hobie has 4 watches.
No, he has 27. He just has an endless supply of watches in his pocket at all times. Is
okay.
Miguel a were-spider or vampire spider?
Miguel? Oh my god, I was reading about this the other day. It's like he's a specific type of spider that has fangs.
Yeah, so
but his and then he has claws instead of sticky stuff. Like he climbs with his claws. So that reminded me of a werewolf. And fangs is vampire or werewolf, but because of the claws, I'm gonna go werewolf.
Werewolf?
He also he's very different from the rest of them. He doesn't have a spider sense. He doesn't climb with like the sticky stuff. He climbs with his claws, and like then he has fangs. He's very different from the rest of the spider powers.
He's also like temporary because he constantly has to push the venom back in his body to stay Spider-Man.
Right. I was reading about his backstory with that. Like he was like got like a medicine thing to like his Peter Parker was the first Spider-Man in his universe, and then he like needed to get like a medicine thing, and then they used Peter Parker's DNA, and it gave him like Spider-Man DNA, and then that Peter Parker Spider-Man died. So then he was like, okay, my turn. And I think that's funny because he also wasn't the original Spider-Man in his universe, but he has so much beef with Miles. I think Miguel is just so dumb being mad at Miles because Miles isn't the one who brought that spider over into his universe. That's Miles didn't do anything. Miles didn't like ask the spider to bite him. Someone else brought the spider into Miles' universe and it happened to bite him. And it's like, okay, what's he gonna do? Unbite himself? Nothing is Miles' fault, and he is so angry at Miles for being the original anomaly. When it's like, first of all, the spider, I suppose you could argue, was the original anomaly if it came first before it bit Miles. And none of it was like Miles' fault. Miles didn't do anything. He just got bit. Like it was things happening to him. He didn't do anything.
If it's the future in Miguel's universe, why didn't he just go back in time to before Miles got bit and put the spider back into the correct universe?
My best guess is like all the universes run like on a parallel timeline. So like the spider got in before he started monitoring stuff, and then he started monitoring the universes.
But it was only
so
a
he
year
couldn't
ago.
go. What?
But he got bit a year ago. And Miguel had been monitoring the universes for a long time. Like definitely.
Do we know
more
for
than
sure?
A year. Definitely more than a year.
Let me Google it.
Because Gwen joined like 6 months before Miguel found out, and that had been a year when he found out that Gwen was part of the team. So the whole society could not have been 6 months old. There's like no way.
I was gonna say maybe it was like a little less than a year old. Like a year ago, Miles got bit, and then like because that was the first anomaly, that's when Miguel started doing his things.
But like things being in the wrong universe disrupts the canon.
Not unless they disrupt the canon. If they're in the wrong universe and they don't disrupt the canon, then that's fine.
But it's just like going in, like if we right now go into our current past and like kick a pebble, that will disrupt the future canon.
The movie didn't establish that though. The movie didn't establish that. The movie just established that certain things have to happen. So as long as those things still happen, the canon is unaffected by other people in other universes.
But like,
as long as a policeman close to Spider-Man still dies, it doesn't matter if Gwen Stacy is in Miles' universe.
But
as
like,
long as
I think
his
they
dad still
showed
dies.
up because the Vulture was about to disrupt the canon because, like, what's his name? Gwen's dad was gonna like shoot Gwen or whatever. Or like kill Gwen in some way, and that's not supposed to happen.
I don't think so,
or
because
the Vulture
they were about
kill
to
Gwen. Or the Vulture was gonna kill Gwen's dad, and that he's not supposed to kill Gwen's dad. Some villain in that universe is supposed to kill Gwen's dad.
Yeah, that's possible. But yeah, they didn't. All they cared about was like getting the Vulture back. So I just assumed that like they came together to first start putting like guys from other universes back in the right universe, and then they found out about canon events after Miguel did his little bad thing. He's so funny. He was just like, like it's even worse than like Wanda in like the Marvel universe, because Wanda's like, I had these kids for a little bit and then they went away, so then I went to other universes to get my kids back. But he never had a kid. He was just like, oh look, a universe where I do have a kid, I'm gonna go be a dad. That's so funny.
I thought he did have a kid and she like died.
Okay, I have a timeline. We don't have to argue about like theorizing this anymore. There's a timeline of events. Are you ready? I'm gonna read this. Miguel and Lila studied the multiverse for some time, designing a special watch that would allow its wearer to travel from universe to universe without their molecules destabilizing. Spider-Man came to observe the events on Miles's Earth, where a particle collider drew in several spider-like heroes from across the multiverse to its dimension. Okay, so he didn't have an original daughter. The next paragraph is, sometime later he came across a world where his counterpart had a daughter. So he didn't have a daughter. He just saw a different universe where he had a daughter, and then that guy died. So he was like, my turn.
He had a daughter?
It just feels correct. Like, it feels like he had a daughter and she died, so then he found a different universe where she was alive, but that's not what happened. When his counterpart in that dimension was shot and killed, he stepped in to take the place, but the presence there disrupted a canon event, and it erased everyone in it, including the daughter. So he was just sad that his other universe's daughter died. So he didn't have a daughter, which makes it funnier.
That's so... Miguel is horrible. He
was just looking through
horrible.
The different universes, found a universe where he had a daughter, and then went, okay, have a daughter now.
That's so
do you know what's the fun? My favorite thing about him is that he's naked at all times, but just has a hologram over his body.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's so funny. Like, he's just doing everything
he's
naked.
So fucking weird.
I can go on a rant now about
like if you really think about his character, he's so fucking weird and so just not a good person. Why is he the leader of like all Spider-Men?
Because he like discovered the multiverse.
But he's just a naked guy.
He's just a naked, angry guy, sad about a daughter he had for 3 months that wasn't his.
He's like a drunk dad who just sits in his recliner naked watching the news and drinking beer all day. Like, that's who he really is on the inside.
No, this ties into why he stopped being Spider-Man, because like Spider-Man is this is like so many rants all at once in my brain. How do I word this at all? Spider-Man is like a very self-sacrificing character. Spider-Man will always like sacrifice himself to save someone, and like at some point he became okay with sacrificing other people to keep the multiverse intact, which Spider-Man would never do. It's like the whole thing where they're like, you either save this one person or you save like the universe, but it's like in every Spider-Man media ever, Spider-Man always tries to do both. That's what Spider-Man is. In like the live action versions, when the villains like will dangle like a trolley full of kids over like a bridge, and then like his girlfriend and like drop them both, Spider-Man saves both. Spider-Man never picks but one or the other. Spider-Man always tries to save both, and Spider-Man always will sacrifice himself to save someone else. And at some point, Miguel became okay with not trying to save both. He became okay with sacrificing someone else, not himself. He became okay with sacrificing someone else to save like the universe, which is not what Spider-Man is. And it's so interesting, and it's like it ties into even like the beginning of the movie when like Miles is late for his counselor meeting, and she's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but then Miles is like, unless you have 2 cakes. And that's like, it sets up the plot, because Miguel is like, you can't save both, and Miles like, you can try. Miles like is gonna like come up with another solution to try and save both. And it's like the whole thing about having 2 cakes is so interesting, because it's like in what's his name, like what's the Indian guy's name?
Predator.
Harvey Predator.
The Indian one.
Indian one.
Predator.
Predator.
Yes.
In his universe, it was like he was still gonna try and save both. He said it like before Miles saved the police guy. He said like, I can do both. He was gonna try and save both, but he couldn't because there was only one of him. But then Miles was there, and he had 2 cakes. There were 2 Spider-Men, and they were able to save both by working together. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too unless you have two cakes. And that was demonstrated with, like, he was able to do both when there were two Spider-Men and teamwork. And it's like he was still going to try even though he was going to fail without Miles. And Miguel just doesn't even want to try anymore. And that's, like, not who Spider-Man is. And I have so many thoughts. And then that ties into, like, the entire movie had, like, a repeating theme of repetition. At the very beginning, when Miles was first talking to the Spot, he was like, why did you call it an ATM machine? The M stands for machine. And then later, the Indian guy was like, why you call it chai tea? That's TT. And then later he was like, you're saying bread. And then it's like the entire movie, it's just like repeated and repeated that, like, repetition is repeated throughout the movie. There's repetition of repetition. And it's like, then there's multiple Spider-Man. The Spider-Man are repeated. There's repetition of Spider-Man. And it all connects and it's all coming together. And I have so many thoughts that is so hard to word. Did you understand that?
Yes, I got all that.
Good.
I have one thought.
Yes.
Miguel only tested his theory of the canon once.
With him.
And just went off of that for everyone in every universe.
No, that's a different thing. Was if he's correct that Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man, that he's an anomaly, why is he assuming the canon applies to him? If Miles being Spider-Man wasn't, like, supposed to happen, why should he have to experience the canon events? Why would his universe break if he doesn't have the canon events? If his universe, he was never supposed to be Spider-Man in his universe.
What? How do they know the canon, and why is the canon the same in every single universe? Wouldn't the canon be different?
This was in the article I was just reading.
In, like, each specific universe?
Okay, so in his studies, Miguel discovered the web of life and destiny, which is a set timeline of canon events for spider-like heroes across the multiverse that couldn't be disrupted. So that's like there's a thing.
But
it's a three-dimensional construct of five-dimensional space. It's a whole space-time thing that he discovered.
But I feel like there probably is, like, a set, like, number of events that should happen to each spider person, but I feel like they should each be, like, specific for that spider person. Like, they don't have to lose their dad.
I think,
what if they don't have a dad?
This is making fun of, I think this, like, is getting meta a little bit. I think this is making fun of the fact that when people stopped making Spider-Man comics just about Peter Parker and started making new Spider-Man comics, they were scared to break the Peter Parker mold, and they basically were like, okay, I have this new character, and he's Spider-Man, but I'm basically going to give him Peter Parker's story because I'm scared to not give him Peter Parker's story. Like, I feel like this is, like, a critique of the comic industry repeatedly giving the same stories, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like that was an artistic way to be like, comics keep being scared to give Miles a different storyline than Peter, or something like that.
Yeah.
What else do I have thoughts about? Oh, speaking of Miles and Peter, I thought the part where his roommate, who's, like, kind of like Ned, because, you know, a big complaint people have about MCU's, like, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is that it rips a lot of Miles' comic book storyline, and while, like, especially Ned is, like, taken from Miles' books. And while I agree with that, I still think, as someone who reads a lot of early Spider-Man comics, I feel like MCU's Peter Parker does match up with a lot of early Spider-Man comic portrayals of Peter Parker.
Ned is also in Gwen's story.
So interesting. But I see a lot of people complain.
He's, like, the bully. Like, he was Peter's bully, who, like,
that's so interesting.
Pushed down Peter and made Peter, like, angry, and which made him lead to becoming the Gator.
Oh. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Oh, and then also, building off of the last rant, the fact that Miguel is like, you were never supposed to be Spider-Man, is like a direct contradiction to the first movie where the message was anyone can be Spider-Man. Like the entire first movie is like, look at all these different universes. In any universe, like you could be Spider-Man. Anyone can be Spider-Man. Anyone. That's even like a thing that like Stan Lee has talked about. Like the cool thing about Spider-Man is that he wears a mask. Anyone could be under it. Like that's why Spider-Man is such a popular superhero. Anyone can be Spider-Man. Anyone can get bit by a spider and be Spider-Man. It's about like your choices. Um, but then this universe, it was like you were never supposed to be Spider-Man, which is, and then building off that, it being your choices, it's like the thing that makes you Spider-Man is that like you choose to be a hero. But Miguel is so caught up in canon events that he thinks the thing that makes you Spider-Man is that you had the canon event of being bit by a spider. But like, it's more than that, you know?
I think Miguel blames all his problems on everyone else.
Oh yeah, he's very self-righteous about it. He's like, I caused this problem, so I want to make sure this never happens to anyone else. But it's very much like you don't know if it'll happen to anyone else. And I still maintain that if Miles wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man in his universe, there's no reason he should have to follow canon events necessarily. If he's an anomaly, his canon events could also be anomalies, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and then
Wait,
just like the repetition. What?
because if the Miguel who becomes the Prowler, he went through like the canon events that he was supposed to go through if he was Spider-Man. The only one he's missing is the spider. So I feel like Miguel, Spider-Man Miguel, doesn't need to go through those canon events because the other Miguel already went through them.
I'm following you. And just like the movie had like a theme of repetition, there was equally the theme of like reflections, I guess. Like Miles and Gwen were constantly being even did you notice all the shots with like Miles and Gwen being like on opposite sides or like one facing up and one facing down?
Yeah.
That was very like thematic. Like they're and like their stories paralleled each other with both wanting to tell their parents and Gwen not wanting Miles to because it went bad for her. But like Miles' parents would probably be okay with it because Miles' dad gets along with Spider-Man, and like
yeah.
parents like love him. I don't know. It was like, and there was just lots of like reflection themes between them, and then the the spot. It's like him and Miles really do parallel each other a lot. I know like the spot brought a lot of it up and made it clear to the audience that like they created each other and stuff like that. But even like the spot guy was like making himself a villain because he was like, you guys aren't taking me seriously, I'll show you how bad of a villain I can be, you know?
Yeah.
And Miles did a lot of that with like being Spider-Man. It was like Miguel was like, you're not supposed to be Spider-Man, and Miles was like, I'll show you I can be Spider-Man. And it's like they're very similar characters, and I like that they're portrayed as like each other's nemesis because they like reflect each other a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was on purpose, but considering how much details in the movie, it probably was. I like that the villain is full of holes, and he kept talking about his holes, and it was like a big funny bit. That was a funny part. Where the guy was like, you're making us all uncomfortable talking about your holes. But, and then his first interaction with Miles is that Miles like hit him with a bagel or something, right?
Yeah.
And bagels have a hole in the middle of them.
Yeah.
That's cool to me. That's just like, I don't know, he hit him with a hole, and then he hit him and made him full of holes. Holes. I don't know. It ties in.
This is the second multi-universe movie that the villain relates to a bagel.
What was the first one?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh my god! What is it with multi-universe bagels?
Some of the shots in the movie were like formatted like a comic book. The screen, they would
Oh,
like
I love the comic book thing. When they would like add little like subtitles kind of like to give you context.
no, like
And the text would pop up in the corner
no,
like a comic book.
like
Okay.
this the screen would like divide up into looking like a comic book.
Movie's very in your face with the trans metaphor. But didn't this movie come out at the beginning of Pride Month?
Did it?
I think so. I feel like it came out at the beginning of June, which adds to my point about how A, the trans metaphor, and B, the entirety of telling both Miles and Gwen telling their parents they're Spider-Man reads like a coming out scene. And then like building up the strength to tell your parents something about your identity. The entire movie is very queer coded.
The movie came out. Good for the movie.
The movie came out. The movie came out, and it came out during Pride Month, and it's about coming out during Pride Month.
Alright, reading my notes raw, no filter. Let's see. This is a mess. We got ooh, these ones are good. Mayday is non-canon, and Peter B. Parker is completely fine. His universe is fine. He's doing well.
Like, the whole reason Miles grew into being Spider-Man is because Peter B. Parker came into his universe and mentored him, but that wasn't supposed to happen, but it was fine, and nothing happened, you know?
Yeah. So that's one of many reasons why Miguel is fucking stupid. We got Miles is an anomaly and he's fine. So reason number 2 that Miguel is fucking stupid. Gwen and Miles are supposed to lose their dads. Are they going to? Probably not. Probably not. So that's reason number 3 that Miguel is fucking stupid. Oh, the art style for some of the characters and some of like the background in the movie is very similar to certain episodes from this TV show called Love, Death, and Robots. It's like a TV show on Netflix. That's each episode is like its own like story. They're like all completely different from each other, but each episode is in a different art style, and they're kind of just like their own like little short stories. They relate nothing to each other. And if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it because it's like my favorite show.
I don't want to go super into cop commentary, but I liked how like building off of like the whole trans thing earlier, but like the fact that like because he was a good cop, it meant he had to shoot / arrest his daughter, and at the end he decided Gwen's dad was like, because Gwen was like, you're a good cop, but you're a bad dad, and he like quit being a cop because he can't be a good cop and a good dad to his daughter as Spider-Man at the same time.
Oh, I forgot he quit.
So he stopped being a cop, and then in doing so, he changed a canon event, because now a police chief close to Spider-Gwen is not going to die. He's also changed the canon event.
Wouldn't that technically be Miguel's fault because Miguel stopped
Yes.
her dad because he like prevented him from arresting her?
And that was where the timeline was going.
Yeah.
But also, it could have not been where the timeline was going because the Vulture was from the wrong universe. The Vulture was never supposed to be there in the first place. So,
but like it was probably
maybe
gonna happen
the dad,
at some point.
Maybe instead of like arresting her, the dad was just gonna die a normal way. I don't know. But the Vulture and then afterwards Miguel's led to the dad stepping down and then therefore changing a canon event.
So it was Miguel's fault.
When I was finding like those like posts I kept sending you about the movie, I had to scroll past so many fan fictions of Reader with Miguel. Like
Ew.
Out of all the people in the movie, it seemed like everyone was just horny for Miguel. There were so many things, like,
he's
very
voiced
sexual.
by Oscar Isaac, man.
I love Oscar Isaac. Not in a gay way, I just like him as an actor.
I like him in a gay way.
Okay. So, guys, funny story. This ties into my story tonight, too. I'm gonna tell 2 stories. What are you laughing at now?
You said funny story.
I didn't tell it yet. Go sit down.
I'm already.
You're in timeout. Mute yourself. You're in timeout.
Oh, okay.
When I was seeing the movie in theaters a couple days ago, we'd had pretty bad thunderstorms for like the day before and then that day. But in the middle of the movie, everybody in the theater's phones at the same time started screaming with a tornado warning. This was very unexpected because usually phones don't go off in the movie because they're on silent. And right when it first happened, I thought it was part of the movie. Like, I thought there was like a siren in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then, no, it was just everybody's phones were going off because there was a tornado coming towards us.
Tyler can't hear
This
me
is
right
fine
now,
though, because every adult was just like,
him,
not that big of a deal. This is what living in the Midwest is like. I'm just gonna keep watching my movie. But all of the kids it was funny because people were trying to figure out how to close out of their warning. Like, it was like hard to turn the warning off and everyone's phones just kept screaming.
You could just shut off your phone.
The kids got scared. Like, a bunch of kids, they started like crying and being like, I'm scared of the tornado.
That's
everybody
hilarious.
who had kids just left the movie theater. Like, they just all walked out in the middle of the movie, and I was like, how are you leaving right now? We're right at the good part. Like, it was close to the end. There was like 20 minutes left of the movie.
Why
like,
would
we were
they leave
at
in
the
the middle
good
of a
part,
tornado?
and everybody with kids just like held their hands while the kids were scared and walked out. I was like, damn. And my dad went to like go get popcorn or something, and he came back, and the sky outside was yellow. No, he didn't. He had gotten popcorn earlier. He just went, I want to go see what it looks like. And then he just left in the middle of the movie. My dad just left to go look out the window, and then he came back 2 minutes later. It was like, the sky's yellow. Nice.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a tornado.
And we just finished the movie, and then we left, and then the tornado like passed over us and didn't hit us or anything. And then I think me and my dad are just unlucky, because we went to a concert tonight at my mom's church, and in the middle of the concert, there was a big storm. There was a big storm tonight. It hadn't hit us yet. Like, we were in the green, and the storm that was like red on the weather radar was coming towards us. But in the middle of the concert, the power just went out in the entire building. Like, the lights started flickering, and I thought it was part of the show at first. First, I thought someone accidentally hit the lights, and then I thought it was like, oh, the lights flickering is part of the show. And then it just like, the speakers like sound like they blew out, and then everything shut down. And it was so funny that me and my dad, every time we've gone to see something together this week, it's just like something very, very weird that I've never experienced before happened. Like, when do you get a tornado warning during a movie theater movie, and when does the entire power in a building go out in the middle of a concert? It was so weird. You can come back now.
Timeout right now, but you guys
if you didn't fall asleep. Are you there?
Entire time.
What would you rate this movie out of 5 stars?
Probably 4.2.
0.2? That's valid. I would give this movie 5 stars, and I don't want it to seem like I give movies 5 stars a lot. We just happen to have watched 2 really good movies in a row. I usually give movies 3 or 4 stars. I like movies. Like, I'll give movies 3 or 4 stars pretty easily. But I don't give movies 5 stars a lot. I just really, really liked this movie, and I really, really liked A Man Called Otto.
I get that.
But this was genuinely the best movie that I've seen for the first, like, while watching it for the first time the last couple of years. This was the best one. Best, like, new movie I have seen in a very long time. This was so good. Like, the last time I liked a movie that I saw for the first time this much, it was probably Jojo Rabbit. Thank you guys for watching this.
Again. Do it again.
If you want to listen to it early, you can do that exclusively by listening to our Spotify podcast, which the link to that is down in the description below. You can subscribe to that or whatever, like, follow that, save the podcast, listen to it every week early, a day early. It comes out on Thursday. And
on Spotify.
to see Spotify, to see some like funny reposted shorts content or behind the scenes or like bloopers, just anything like funny, us just hanging out talking, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Instagram will get you some good pictures and some random like
Those links are
Instagram
in the
reels,
description.
videos, and our TikTok will also have some silly videos of us hanging out, bloopers, whatever, and you can follow those. That would be really appreciated. If you
Links in the
like this
description.
podcast, you should subscribe to us so you can keep watching our podcast, and maybe tell a friend about this podcast and how
Share.
cool and funny we are and how insightful
We're so cool.
we are. We're cool dudes that should
So
be
funny.
subscribed to. So you should please subscribe. And if you really like us, don't just subscribe. Buy stickers of us. Nothing tells us you love us more than a good old Telly production sticker. And
Show off
if
the
you can check out
brand.
our Redbubble, the link in the description.
Link in the
then
description.
you can buy a sticker. You can buy more than a sticker. You could buy like a notebook. You could buy like
A
a
t-shirt.
laptop case. You could buy a hat. You could buy
A
anything,
t-shirt.
and then you can wear a T-shirt out
You
that
can
says
buy
Telly Productions,
me.
and someone will be like, "Oh
I'll
my
show up to
God,
your house,
what's
hand
Telly
deliver
Productions?"
Your
And then
package. I'll
we
be
will
there.
deliver it, hand deliver it, and someone will be like, "What's Telly Productions?" And you can be like, "Oh, there's these really cool guys on YouTube that you should go watch."
And subscribe to.
Subscribe. That's the important message here. Subscribe and share.
Subscribe.
And share. Bye.